and what the heck is growing on, I'll tell you what's growing on is that each and every Sunday I come here to help you with your garden woes, to maybe turn that garden of Whedon into the garden of Eden, to make sure that we can go from seed to fruit, maybe go from even seed to vegetable during this growing season, what to prune, what to divide, what to transplant, what you should be doing. If you're wondering who the heck I am, my name is Frank Ferragini, aka Frankie Flowers. I am a 4-time best-selling garden author, Canadian garden expert. My family has 2 garden centers just located outside of Toronto, one in Bradford, one in Barrie, called Bradford Greenhouse's Garden Gallery. We're not only garden center operators, we're actually greenhouse growers as well. So I have a lifetime of experience, and we are here indeed to help you. Already this evening, we got Penny out there giving us a little bit of a shout out too that says, "Hi, Frankie." Hi, Penny. Hey, I want to give a shout out just to start off today to all those that attended yesterday at the Burlington Home Show. I spoke yesterday at 2 o'clock at the Burlington Home Show at the Appleby Ice Center, where we talked a little bit about container gardening. For all those that attended, some wonderful questions. We went and talked about everything from grubs and lawns to the box tree moths and some of the boxwoods to what are the best containers to be growing in. Each and every time that we do those, we actually have a lot of fun that's out there. So if you do have a question and you're joining us, you can just go into the comments, pop in your question. That's why I'm here, to kind of help you answer some of those questions and to help you have a better garden this season. And if I'm not able to answer the questions during this next half hour, the community that's on here will help to answer those questions. So first thing that I really want to talk about is this time of year. This time of year, this weekend, we actually had still some snowfall in some areas. We have risk of frost. However, we are getting longer daylight hours. We still have nice cool temperatures. We have a greater frequency of rain. And this is the perfect time to be really dividing a lot of plant material that's out there. So if you do have some perennial plants in your garden that have not really looked that great over the last couple of years, where they haven't been as big, maybe they're not blooming as vibrantly, that's a good indication that they need to be divided. When dividing, you want to make sure you're doing it on a period where it's not a hot, dry day, a period where we're cooler temperatures, even rain in the forecast. And when we're dividing them and transplanting them to a new location, we'd want to use a transplant fertilizer. You want to, let's say that we're doing hosta as an example, the hosta will have those little things that poke out. Those are called eyes. If we're dividing sections out of that, we're really wanting 3 of those to be in each section. 3 to 5 will be ideal. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Tanya, who has been touring not only the country, but the world, taking a look at some of the new annual varieties that are out there and helping growers get growing. Happy Sunday. Garden season is hot in BC. Let's hope the weather heads east. Indeed, this week in BC, some wonderful conditions of sunshine, temperatures into the upper teens there. So we're hoping that it will head our way. We got Matthew Amos this evening saying a shout out as well. Hey, I'm saying hey to you as well, Matthew. We got my good friend Tracy Reynolds, who's a wonderful florist that's located in the beach. Frankie, wearing my favorite color, my friend, green. Also want to give a shout out too, if you're wondering what milestone stands for, my really good friend Mike Beeman, my high school friend, the person who I played minor hockey with. That's his company. He is a custom home builder. There's a lot of projects around Lake Simcoe. I was with him last night, and also my friends Paul and Craig and Jason and Darren, all guys I played minor hockey with. We watched the Leaf game last night and we cried. That's what I'm just going to say. Miriam, good friend Miriam as well. Good afternoon, Frankie. Good evening as well. How are you? Frankie, is hybrid dianthus and carnations are the same plant? If not, where can I get carnations? So dianthus is really all from the carnation family. So a dianthus is a carnation is pretty much a dianthus. There are several different varieties in that family. There are some varieties that are zoned hardy that will come back each and every year, like dianthus pinks, beautiful ground cover. Sweet William is also a dianthus variety that was used as a cut flower. There are some varieties of dianthus and carnations that are also annuals. Where can you get them? Most local garden centers will have them, and you're actually going to see a lot more dianthus this year. Dianthus, and here's a little bit of indication from Tanya as well, dianthus is more referring to perennial, and carnations are annual/potted. And carnations, I'll add to that too, are the ones that are generally used for a cut flower, but there are still some varieties of dianthus that will be annual. So we got to look at what zone hardiness they are. Tanya is the biggest fan of dianthus. She loves her dianthus that's out there. We got Jenny Lynn that's out there from Stainer, Jerry Lynn that is from Stainer. We got Deborah where it's like it's frozen. It has been pretty cold out there. We got TJ this evening. Hi TJ. Hi from Kawartha Lakes. Hi, I hope you're doing great there in Kawartha Lakes. We got a great question here as well. This question comes from Rachel Dupuy. Hi Frankie, how can I get rid of moss on my grass? So the reason why we have moss on your lawn is number one, compaction. So you have a compacted soil. Often as well, you'll have an acidic soil, generally meaning clay. So a clay soil becomes compacted, high in acidity, and also where moss will thrive is if it's shaded. So in order for us to reduce or rid that moss, what we need to do is to reduce the amount of compaction. So what we'll do with that is we'll aerate. So you can do some aeration, rake up, even if you just rake up the moss, it'll almost tear up. And then you actually kind of turn up that soil a little bit, reduce that compaction. But at the same time, you add a little bit of horticultural lime. That'll neutralize the acidity. If it's shaded and you can prune some overhead branches, then you'll prune some of those overhead branches and then seed within. So that's how, and those are the reasons why you have moss. And those are the ways that you can actually reduce moss. If it's an area that's always going to be shaded, your grass may struggle to grow in that area. So maybe allowing that moss to be there is also not a bad thing because at least it's green and it looks good as well. So we got Tracy Barber saying hello from Port Rowan. I got to tell you, my good friend Amanda, who you see on my Instagram, often that helps me shoot all my social media content, went to Port Rowan for the eclipse, and it was remarkable what she saw there. I was quite jealous of her. That's there. We got Tracy Reynolds, who's saying that she's making a confession here. I've recently embraced carnations in floral designs. They get a bad rap. They are beneficial in floral designs. So if we look at the carnation in floral designs, they often kind of get a rap of being a funeral type flower. However, some of the carnations are beautiful, some of the different colors and whatnot, and then how long they last. They actually last an exceptionally long time as a cut flower, and then also the durability of them. So let's say that you're in a wedding and somebody gets in a fight, they can actually beat each other up with that bouquet, and the carnations will almost hold. So they are a very good flower if used with the right design in mind. So I really agree with you as well. We got Miriam too, which is saying about the dianthus and carnations. I go out one right now. It's Passion Pink Hybrid Dianthus. It has a long stem just like carnations. They will. Some of them do. And there's some kisses. There's the dianthus kisses that are out there as well. So there's some wonderful fragrant varieties of dianthus. To be honest with you, just yesterday when I was at the Burlington Home Show, I created a container, and the container I created was one that could actually handle a little bit cooler temperatures because that's where we're having. So what I did with that container was I put dianthus to the back of the container because even when it's not in bloom, has a nice silvery type foliage. As well, what I added into that was coral bells, a heuchera with a nice dark leaf color. So that actually transitioned nice with the pink dianthus that actually had a little bit of a veining in there that was a little bit more dark. I then, as well, at the same time, use some Nemesia. I put some Nemesia in there, which is actually a little bit of a filler that's quite nice. And then I put some osteospermum as well within the same container. And then in the front, as a spiller, I planted some ajuga, perennial ajuga, that actually would just trail over. And then I put some pussy willow stems in. So that created a wonderful container that can take cooler temperatures that you could actually enjoy for a lengthy period of time, that even after we could take some of the perennials out of it and plant them in our garden. So those are some things that we have there. Valerie. Good evening, Valerie. Valerie, hello, Frankie. My boxwood doesn't look good. Looks dry. Should I fertilize? So if your boxwood doesn't look good and it looks brown, there is a good possibility it's got the box tree moth. So box tree moth, if you just type in box tree moth in Google, you'll see a whole bunch of information. The box tree moth is actually a caterpillar that will cause a lot of harm and actually almost decimate your boxwood. So if your boxwood is over, let's say 50% yellow, then it's going to be hard to bring it back around to green. It could also be not the box tree moth. It could be something called winter burn. If it's winter burn, what you can do is by providing moisture, we've had lots of rain, but when we fertilize with a nice high nitrogen, an evergreen food like a high nitrogen, you'll even find a shake and feed that you can use for Miracle Grow, which actually is one that's formulated for evergreens. That one you can actually shake around the plant that will fertilize as well. If you're confused whether it's damaged by box tree moth or by winter burn, just email me, frankie@frankieflowers.com. We got Serenz, I think is her name or his name. Hi from Gabriel. Oh, it's hi from Gabriel in Kitchener, Ontario. Hey, Gabriel, how you doing out there? Matthew wants me to let my co-host know. Tell Meredith Shaw that I'm going to send a letter to her also. I'll let you know that as well. I let Stephanie know as well, so just so you know. We have Michelle, who's given us a shout out from beautiful Windsor, Ontario. It's remarkable in the spring months how much further ahead Windsor is than Toronto in terms of what things are growing. How much further ahead Toronto is even from Bradford. And a lot of that not only has to do with temperature, a lot of that has to do is the further south, you're actually having longer daylight hours. The more north you go, the further away from the equator, we get a little bit more shorter daylight, just by a few minutes. But that makes a huge difference in terms of growing. Shelley. Hi, Shelley. Do we need to cover our fig trees and oleander from Oakville? This evening, I would, because we have what's going to happen is clear skies tonight. We're going to have the winds actually die down and temperatures near the freezing mark. So there's a good chance of frost. I'm going to be covering. I actually did a direct sow on some radishes about 10 days ago. They're up. I'm just going to cover them just to be on the safe side. So I'd rather be on the safe side than not on the other side, which means you get frost damage. Question that we have right now. Hi, Frankie. When is it safe to plant vegetable seeds? So we could plant right now. You could go out today, tomorrow, sow spinach. You could sow radishes right now. You could do carrots. You could do onions right now. Some of the farmers in the marsh are already planting celery plants right now. You can be sowing, as I mentioned, your onions, your beets as well. Many are root vegetables. You can be doing all those. If you're doing a direct sow of things like cabbage, cauliflower, and kale, you could do those right now as well. So any of those cooler crops, what we want to avoid planting outdoors or even sowing seeds, it'd be too late to sow seeds. But tomatoes can't take this cold air. Peppers can't take this cold air. Any squash plants can't take this. Beans, hold off on beans right now in terms of a direct sow outdoors, and most herbs as well. Parsley, you could sow outdoors right now, and you could sow outdoors any lettuce. So if you want to do mesclun mix or anything like that. Rosalind, great question, actually, Rosalind. Can I prune my roses this time or is it too late? Thank you. So for your roses, what we want to do in spring is any of those canes that actually appear to be blackened or white, they're dead. So you want to prune those out and remove those. Any of the thinner canes that you see, you can prune those out. And then what you really want to do is get get 5 canes that are nice, thick, and green. And these are for hybrid tea or grafted roses. So you can prune those. Even if you have Rosa rugosa, which is the shrub roses, David Austin roses, you can prune them all at this time of year. There's no problem. But it's also the rose variety, which is really important to know. The things that we don't want to prune at this time of year are lilacs, because if we prune them, we'll lose their blooms. Any large leaf hydrangeas, macrophyllales, any of the pink and or blue hydrangeas, we don't want to prune those because they actually will bloom on last year's growth. Forsythia, we don't want to prune. Many of those things that bloom in early spring, we do not want to prune or bloom in spring. And the best thing always, as a rule of thumb, is always prune after they bloom, and you'll never fail. That's out there. Tanya, giving us another little recommendation there as well. You can purchase a pot of carnation in February, and it's nice outside in April. It will flower till November. Yes, she is the carnation dianthus king. That is what she is right now. And you know what we'll do is we'll do a little dianthus talk next week. If Tanya, you're watching, you want to provide me with some images and some of your 5. Why don't we do your 5 fave? We'll do Tanya's 5 fave, and maybe we'll even pop you on here if I technically can figure that out. And we'll do that. And because you've done some great tours around, and actually both of us got to catch up too. We have Wendy English. Wendy, how are you? What plants could you plant under a blue spruce? Love from Alliston. I would recommend not planting anything underneath a blue spruce. And the reason why I'm going to say that is, number one, that blue spruce is going to be very much a bully taking moisture and nutrients from the soil. It's also going to restrict light. And then at the same time, what it's going to do is drop needles down. Those needles can acidify the soil. If the blue spruce is pruned up quite high and you're allowing some light to get in, then we can do some plantings that are under there. And we can look for some plants that may be like a slightly acidic soil, like Northern Lights azalea. Hostas may survive in that area because they can use dry shade. So any of those plants can use with dry shade. So for myself, Wendy, if you want to send me a picture of the area you're speaking of, Frankie@frankieflowers.com, then I can guide you whether maybe it's just best to mulch underneath that area that's there and keep it nice and clean and tidy. But maybe we can do some planting that's there as well. We got a question here about sod. Anna, hi Frankie, when is the best time to lay down fresh sod? You can lay it down tomorrow if you can find it. And many sod farmers are just starting to cut right now. But yeah, you can do sod. You can lay sod, patch your lawn right now. I would just hold off on seeding because grass seed needs a warmer temperature to germinate, the soil temperature. So I'd be waiting until first, second week of May before I put grass seed down. But if you can find sod right now, and you probably could from your local sod farmers or wherever you can see it for sale, you can lay it down right now. Daryl. Hey, Daryl, what's going on, man? Hi. Haha. What kind of weddings are you going to, Frankie? What kind of weddings are you going to? Well, you know what? You never know. As I mentioned about the fights that can happen, sometimes bridesmaids, they can get in a fight. Sometimes the groom can hit on the bridesmaid that's with the other groom. That can create a fight. There's a lot of tension that can happen at a wedding. So weddings can be wonderful. They can be amazing. And they can be hugely entertaining. That's all I'm going to say. Most of the weddings I go to, they're pretty calm. But I'm just speaking for a friend, of course. Just speaking for a friend. Valerie, I planted a large Bragmasia outdoors from the cellar. Cross fingers and hope it will grow. It will grow. Bragmasia is that name, so the spelling's a little bit off there, but don't worry. I know exactly what you're saying. What I will tell you is that for today, if there's any foliage that's been pushed out on that, meaning that's already started to actively grow, please cover it for this evening because we do have a risk of frost that's out there. Michelle, she's got a question about mold on the soil for seedlings. What can I do? If you want to just take a fork and just kind of not disturb the root systems, but just kind of scrape that soil a bit, move that soil around, let it dry out slightly. That'll actually reduce the amount of mold that's there. After you've used that fork, just wipe it with some bleach to kill off the spores. The mold on the soil may not even be mold. It could actually be some of the salts that are from your water that you have. But mold, the reason why mold forms is that it's sitting and actually sitting because it's too wet. And then what it's doing is growing on the potting soil, which is decaying wood matter. That's what that potting soil is made of. So all we need to do is create some air circulation. There are no fungicides because mold is actually a fungus spore that we could use to control that as well. You got to get out to one of my presentations, says Tracy. Okay, Tracy, I'm going to tell you what I got going on, okay? Because you just led me right to that. So if you're wondering what's going on and where can you find Frankie next, let's show you those things that are right there. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here to share. Let's hopefully this thing works today. It's because it's been a little bit slow. My computer's been a little bit slow, like me today. So we're going to see if this pops up. If it doesn't, then it may be popping up for you right now and I just can't see it. But we'll see what's going on. So if you're wondering where I'm going to be next, I can actually just tell you where I'm going to be next. So I don't know if this is going to pop up, but I can tell you that I will be next weekend at the Milton Home Show on Saturday. I'll be there at 2 p.m. The following day, I will be at the Collingwood Home Show. The Collingwood Home Show happens at Alpine Ski Club. I'll be there at 1 p.m. Once again, on May the 4th, there's a great event that's happening up at Muskoka Bay Resort. And there's a package where you can actually stay and then you can actually come for a 4-course meal where we're going to talk about gin and we actually talk about gardening at the same time. So there's some great opportunities that you can do and do a meet and greet with me there as well. And then also what's coming up is at Brookfield Place, Tracy, coming up on the 23rd at 12 o'clock to 12:45. I'll be doing a presentation there. And from 1 to 1:45, I'll be doing another presentation. So there's lots of opportunities. If you want any more information, just email that's out there. We got a question here this evening from Sue. This is Sue Poff. Hi, Frankie. Finally getting an opportunity to jump into your live sessions again. Question, what vegetables can you plant with herbs? Well, we can do tons, as a matter of fact. Actually, a really nice companion to tomatoes is basil or basil. And the reason why is that actually the basil plant or basil plant, doesn't matter how you say it, will repel some of the different insects away from tomatoes. So that's a nice pairing together. Oregano as well. So even if we use in a container, let's say that we planted early girl bush tomato in the center of that container. We put maybe one basil plant with it And then in the front of that container, we plant a little bit of oregano that will trail down. All of a sudden, we'll have a nice container that they can all partner very well together. Some of the ones that won't partner well together is, for instance, parsley tends to like a little bit cooler temperatures, can be a little bit more part sun, but most herbs do well. In a container though, I would rather, instead of you planting them in a container altogether, I would rather you plant a pot of each of the herb that you use. And that would be in a 12 to 14, even a 16-inch pot. So you're planting a nice big pot of parsley. You're doing a big pot of basil. You're doing a big pot of rosemary. You're doing a big pot of thyme. And that's the best way, because some of them do become aggressive and will outgrow them. I hope I answered your question a little bit. That's there as well, Sue. So we got a question here this evening as well. This question is from L'Oreal, I guess it is, Bittman. A bunny ate my dianthus all up last year. I had to dig it out and put it in a different spot, but it died. I would love to get another one. I need to protect it from bunnies. So if you're looking to protect from bunnies, what you can also spray with is Animal Be Gone. So Animal Be Gone will leave a residual taste on them. So when the bunnies go to try to eat them, they'll be like, this tastes bad. Carnations and dianthus are actually edible flowers that can be used in salads. They can be used as floral confetti. They can be used to decorate the side of a plate. So the reason why the bunnies are eating them is that they are, but just once again, Animal Be Gone is a great product for that. We got P. Hi, Frankie. Where can I purchase Lisianthus seeds and plants? Thank you. Lisianthus plants are available at most garden centers. Some seeds are available. You can also look online. Just make sure that the companies that you're buying online from are Canadian companies, because that way we'll make sure the seeds are actually have been inspected and that we don't necessarily need to worry about bringing any invasive species or disease that are in. This is an email question, a little bit lengthy, from Sandra. I have a peony that has been in my yard for over 45 years. Amazing. It's getting smaller every year. I tried to clean off the crown off, but it hasn't helped. I want to move it, but I heard I shouldn't till fall. What can I do to get it through the summer when is the best time? So what I would do is, fall is a great time for moving peonies, because you're not going to reduce the amount of blooms it may have this season. But I would sacrifice blooms for this season in order to actually have a better plant that's out there. So with that peony, as long as it's not a herbaceous peony, meaning as long as it's not a tree peony, we can actually divide that peony. So if it's a fairly large root mass, we can divide that into 4 sections, dividing it in 4 sections and then replanting it into a sunny spot, because it's been in a spot for 45 years. Some of the trees could have grown around it and shaded it out. So we're putting it in a new sunny spot. I guarantee you will have a beautiful peony plant this year. Maybe not as many blooms, but next year you will have great blooms. When transplanting, you want to reduce the amount of transplant shock. So, if you can, use a quick start fertilizer, or even bone meal, like a Miracle Grow bone meal as well, will reduce the amount of transplant shock that it has there as well. We got Cheryl saying hello there. Hello there. We got a little shout out here from St. Catharines as well. Love St. Catharines. Just let you know, I will be live on Wednesday in Burlington at Central Garden Center for breakfast television. And I will be at their new location after 8 o'clock in the morning. That's Centro Noca. So if you want to come for some gelato and maybe some coffee, come join me there. We got Miriam with another question this evening as well. Hi, Miriam. I like to have just one like you have described right now. Oh, I got to stop sharing this. Sorry, because this thing's coming up now and it shouldn't be coming up now. Sorry about that. Everything, technology these days. I like to have one like you've described right now. Please share a photo of that planter so I can see and get an idea. Thanks in advance. If I took a photo, I would have shared it. Maybe if the people that I gave it to, because I actually gave it away, are watching this, they can actually text me a picture of that or email me at frankie@frankieflowers.com, frankie@frankieflowers.com. We got to Ignite Your Soul Wellness Spa. I want to find out more about you guys. Hi, Frankie from Ajax. We got Hubert. Hello, Hubert. Hi, Frankie. I just saw you brave the cold plunge. Welcome to spring. Yes, if you don't watch breakfast television, you can see me there each and every day. Earlier this week, I did a cold plunge right at Yonge Dundas Square. I've done cold plunges before. They are amazing as long as you're doing your breath work with that. Something that I don't speak a lot about is that I do a lot for health and wellness. I'm an avid person who is working out. I try to work out each and every day, but not working out with like heavy weights and things like that. I do a lot of cycling. I do Pilates twice a week. I'm doing a lot of things for mobility, for heart health, for longevity, so that I can actually work in the garden and not hurt my back. That I can actually, my goal is when my boys actually have kids, that I'll be easily able to lift my grandkids up, kick a soccer ball with them. So I'm doing the work now for that. And so, yeah, that's why I've done cold plunges and things like that. And I'm a lifelong learner. So anything that actually I can learn a lesson from or learn how it can benefit health overall is something that I'm super passionate about. Yeah, super passionate about. Okay, we got Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Oh, things are freezing up now again. What the heck is going on with technology these days, guys? That's all I'm saying. So we got Vicky. Vicky's got a question this evening as well. Vicky's question: can I transplant a lilac bush in the fall? Planning a move? Yes, indeed. You can transplant it in the fall. It's actually a great time. September is a wonderful month for transplanting. The thing about moving, so what happens with the lilac is we get the spring blooms on the lilac. After the blooms finish, that's the best time to be pruning a lilac. So then as it grows during the summer season, it's actually developing next year's flowers. So when we transplant that in the fall, it could impact some of the bloom production for next year, because what's going to happen when we transplant it, it's going to focus on its root system and then put a little bit less energy to the top of the plant, so that maybe you may not get as many blooms, but in future years you will. So a little bit of sacrifice. Once again, use something like a transplant fertilizer. When you're transplanting a shrub like a lilac or a tree like a lilac, well, lilacs are indeed a flowering shrub, we want to not disturb the root ball. So when we're digging it up, sometimes even when you dig a trench around the exterior of it and you kind of dig down, you can actually take a bed sheet and slide it down. And then as you're doing it, you can actually move that bed sheet so you can pull it on either side. And then you can actually lift it up and have two people on either side. And even if you had a larger pot, you can slide it into that larger pot and then just pull the bed sheet out, or even leave the bed sheet in. So then when you get to the new planting hole, you both lift it with the bed sheet, an old bed sheet that is, set it into its new hole, pull the bed sheet out, and you haven't disturbed the roots that are there. Should you cover? This is, I don't know what this is, what you're talking about, your Brahmamas. I would cover, like if you're questioning it right now, I would cover them. You don't have to cover things you don't have to cover this evening. Any perennial plants that you actually have in your garden that is spreaded up, don't need to cover. Daffodils that are popping up, any spring blooming bulbs that are popping up, you do not need to cover. They're all acclimatized to cold conditions. Anything that we've brought from indoors and have put outdoors, we should cover and or put them in the garage just to be safer out there. We got Barb. Hi, Barb. How you doing this evening? Hi, Frank. Do I need to fertilize my rhubarb? It's coming up now. What I do with rhubarb is I just get a bag of sheep manure or cow manure. I prefer sheep manure. And I just put some sheep manure around the exterior of the root of the rhubarb. I do it either in spring. Most likely, I generally do it in the fall. And that just naturally adds a little bit of some really nice nutrient to that. So that's what I would really kind of recommend for you. Kelly. Hi, Kelly. What's a good perennial, a small flowering bush for a front yard garden? So, a nice little small perennial plant that's tough as nails, that flowers later summer, is autumn joy sedum. Autumn joy sedum, it's a late blooming perennial. It actually has an interesting foliage before it blooms. It's absolutely fantastic. If you want something that blooms a little bit more in the summer, a wonderful blooming variety that's white, which is called Shasta Daisy Becky. Becky's a wonderful variety that actually blooms white and does have a fairly lengthy bloom period as well. But the key is with perennial plants tend to be more like fireworks. So they actually bloom for a period of time and then they go away. So you're not going to have as long as bloom periods as what you would with an annual. So I always say that perennials are like fireworks and annuals are like flames. So maybe a couple perennial plants for that front garden. And then in that sunny space, maybe you pop some good sun-loving annuals like geraniums. All you have to do is deadhead them. So remove the spent flowers, they'll rebloom. Wait petunias as a ground cover around maybe that. So if you did like autumn joy sedum, boom, and then put a little bit of purple wave petunia around it, beautiful. You got color, interest, nice color contrast on foliage as well. We got another question out there this evening from Melissa. Hi, Frankie from Aurora. How you doing? Can't wait to get into the garden. Just did a cleanup today. Me too. Aurora is a beautiful community as well. I do my Pilates in Aurora. That's where I am. Yes. Judy, I have my really good friend Dave lives in Aurora too. Hi, Frankie. Is it too late to use weed and feed? Weed and feed, the one that's approved right now in Ontario because of the cosmetic pesticide ban and pretty much across Canada, that weed and feed actually has corn gluten. That corn gluten coats weed seeds, so it doesn't allow the germination of crabgrass. Things are pretty much actively growing unless you're watching us in Northern Ontario, if you're watching us in Calgary, if you're watching us in Edmonton this evening. If you're noticing that plants are still, the leaves are not coming out on the trees quite yet, and those buds are fairly tight, that's an indication that things haven't really started to actively grow. So in that case, you can put down your corn gluten. If you see leaves that are starting to emerge on the trees, it's too late to put the weed and feed down. So it really depends upon where you live. We got a question out there as well from Jan. My first year growing dahlias. When do I pinch them? So as the dahlias will come up, I would pinch them probably about mid-June is when I would pinch them. Every pinch point that you have will create another bracket, which will create more blooms. Some varieties of dahlias don't need pinching. So if it's the dinner plate dahlia, which is the larger flower head, I would pitch them around mid-June. So, and really when the plant gets to a stage, probably we'll call it 12 to 16 inches. That's where I would do a pinch point there at that point. We got Kim. It just says, hi, Frankie. Hi, Kim. You got Tanya, who's giving me a shout out. You bet I'll be in Germany next Sunday, choosing the carnation and dianthus introductions for Canada for 2026, but I'll definitely send you my top 5. I'm telling you, Tanya we're talking carnations and dianthus. We got the person who's in the know on the newest varieties in the world. Yeah, so she's going to send me her top 5. I'll do a little bit of a presentation on her behalf. When she gets back from Germany, we'll get us that we're both on here and we'll start chatting about the plants that are out there. We got Jen Gee. Jen saying this evening, happy Sunday. Just wondering if you do, for a fee, of course, virtual garden design. Thank you. Jen, send me an email, frankie@frankieflowers.com. I just really would want to know what your goals are, what you're looking for. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. And I'm really happy that you said for a fee because it's great that you value my time. This is free that I do this. And it's just really, I do it because I really like it. I have a grafted multi-variety pear tree that has never bloomed. That's a challenge. It grows well. It's been where it has been for 10 plus years, full sun, shows no signs of problems, spots or insects on the leaves. I've tried pruning it for some years and leaving it for some years. So if it's not blooming, we have some issues with the graft points. So the multi-variety pear tree is a grafted pear tree where we have one variety, which is your main stock, and then they graft the other varieties of pears on that tree. So if it's not blooming, it's never going to get fruit production at all. And it could not be blooming because the grafts could be the issue that's there. And really, instead of trying to nurture this 10-year plant, maybe you just like it for its ornamental shape and size. Maybe you may consider actually planting another pear, and maybe trying this, because if it hasn't worked in 10 years time, it's time where if you really want pears, maybe we need to get an alternative and maybe do something. Kathy asked, do I need to cover my roses for tonight? If your roses have actually flushed out a lot of growth and we are worried about frost, the best thing to do is if you have a bucket, a pail, just take a pail, put it over the top of the rose and put a rock on top of it. It won't get blown away or an animal won't knock it off and it's protected. So, I'd rather you do it than not do it. So that's the best way to say that's out there, because what happens is if, they have fleshed out a little bit of growth and we do get a frost in it this evening and they do get frost burnt, it won't kill them. It'll just knock them back. So if you give them a little bit extra protection, it'll really help them out. We got Jenny Lynn with a question here, which is, I purchased a lemon tree Saturday from your family garden center. When can I put it outside? Jenny Lynn, I wouldn't put it outside till about the middle of May. So we could put it out once frost warnings are gone. I feel most comfortable around the middle of May that'll happen. You could pop it out, but just really pay attention to forecasts. Don't pop it out today or this week because we have some cooler temperatures this week. But even the 1st of May, you may want to pop it out. But if you look and we see that the overnight forecast is one that's freezing, you just pop it in the garage for that evening. But my comfort zone, my biggest recommendation is mid-May. And thanks for shopping at Bradford Greenhouses as well. We got Valerie, which is saying, thank you, Frankie. You make my day. You make my day, but just by saying that as well. We got Joe. Hi, Frankie. This is going to be the last question for this evening. I've been having problems germinating eggplant seed, tried twice already. Any tips? So eggplant seeds, they're really a plant that actually, the best way that for germination is really heating the soil. So first and foremost, for those guys, what you would want to do is make sure you're using a seed starting soil. If there are seed starting pads, or heat pads that actually go underneath the tray, they'll actually heat the soil. You put the seed that's in. We're not really putting that seed too deep into the seed starting soil. I would cover it with a plastic kind of topping, or even just saran wrap over the tray. That, and then before doing that, water, then saran wrap, or just put a plastic capping on the top. That creates what's the greenhouse effect, because what we need is heat and humidity to help germinate that seed. It may be that the seeds that you're germinating, though, are not viable, because if they're family eggplant seeds from years past, if they may not be viable, so it may be bad seed as well. So make sure that you have a good quality seed that has a germination rate of over 85%, and that's kind of the key. So I hope I helped everybody there. Hope maybe that I inspired you guys today. I hope that you have a great week as well. If you want, I encourage you to share this, because if you share this, we're going to get more people in this community. And with that, we'll help more people that are out there. If you're a gardener and you see some of the questions on there and you have answers, you have recommendations, you have suggestions, please hop on the comments. Please answer those, because this is a community we're all going to get out there and to grow. And I just hope that everybody has a blooming great week. Tomorrow morning on Breakfast Television, I will be live from Hyde Park. What will I be doing at Hyde Park? The cherry blossoms tomorrow are supposed to be at peak bloom. That means there's going to be a lot of people out there taking selfies and trying to do pictures with the cherry blossoms behind them. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm in as many pictures as I can. I'm going to photobomb as many people as I can tomorrow. Will people get upset? I'll do it with a smile and I'll do it nicely, but stay tuned on BT tomorrow. Frankie Flowers will be in full effect. Hey guys, have a great day.